What is going on, YouTube universe? Welcome to the Hip and Shoulder, and it is time to get excited, ladies and gentlemen, because the AFL 2025 final series is finally upon us. And in true typical fashion, I'm dropping a tipping video incredibly late. Now, I know it's not typical to do tipping videos for finals, maybe getting predictions and things like that nature, doing a finals predictor where you cover all the games just in one hit, but we don't do that here. I'm doing a week-by-week breakdown. We will do a tipping video each week for the finals. Respectively, at the end of each week, we will do a round recap talking about the outcomes from those games. I just want to keep the vibe alive. We want to keep the season running content-wise for as long as we can. Because I love footy, and if you're here watching this video, you love footy as well. So why not? 4 rounds of football this weekend, and each game presents a brilliant matchup. It's not just matchups that the supporters following their teams in the final series are going to enjoy, but I feel as a neutral supporter, we are given 4 absolutely banging matchups this coming weekend, and I just can't wait to sit back and take it all in. I am so ready for this final series, and at this point in time, I don't even know if I've got a favourite to win it. I've been getting behind Adelaide for recent weeks. Probably still might be Adelaide, but I mean, Collingwood can win it. Geelong can win it. Brisbane can win it. Anybody outside of the top 4 has merit to win this. It is open season, and I cannot wait to see how it plays out. It kicks off tonight, Adelaide Oval, with Adelaide taking on Collingwood. Now, these two played off only a couple of weeks back in round 23, which saw Adelaide narrowly defeat Collingwood by 3 points, 59-56. Something to note in that game, and I think it's the biggest point that's going to help me drive my decision home today, is that Collingwood in this game had 71 inside 50s, and they just failed to capitalise in a very scrappy, wet game of football. I don't think that's going to be the weather conditions tonight, and if they can get 71 in wet weather conditions, they can definitely get 60 plus tonight in decent conditions. They've gone and dropped Dan McStay. They've brought in Mason Cox. I think Mason Cox is a pivotal in for them. Even though they're missing Jeremy Howe, and I think that is a huge omission from this team, albeit through injury, Mason Cox has proven that in big moments he can stand tall. As a Richmond supporter, I don't need to remind anybody about the damage he did to Richmond all those years ago to eliminate us from a final and potentially stop us from getting a four-peat. We could have four-peated if it wasn't for that American bastard, but bringing him in this game, I feel they should have kept probably Dan McStay in, because Dan McStay, Tim Membry, Mason Cox, surely they cannot keep all 3 of them down, but I can understand why you drop a big man for a big man. With Adelaide, they go into this game without Isaac Rankin, and he's just that X factor that brings so much pressure around the contest. This is going to be a banging matchup. Out of all the matchups over the course of the weekend, I feel this has potential to be one of the best. I've been talking up Adelaide for weeks and weeks and weeks, but I feel, statistically speaking here, even though Collingwood, out of the 8 teams, go in with the worst track record over recent months, I think they've won 5 of their last 10, which is the worst placed out of all 8 teams in the final series. But just knowing they lost by 3 points, they had all that statistical advantage in that Adelaide game, I feel Mason Cox comes in and really changes their forward structure as well. I'm going to go with Collingwood to win tonight in an upset. And I think Adelaide, if they're going to get to the grand final, they're going to get there the hard way, which will allow Isaac Rankin to actually play in the grand final. We then move on to the next game, which is Geelong hosting Brisbane at the MCG. The last time these two teams faced off was back in round 3, so hard to really get a gauge on how they would go against each other given the fact that they faced each other so early on in the piece. But in that game, it was Brisbane winning by 9 points, 70-61. Home ground advantage obviously at the Gabba, but we know Brisbane this year haven't had that fortress at the Gabba. They have failed to win at the Gabba more often than not this year. Coming down to the MCG, I think Geelong have the outright advantage here, and I think they are better placed just given how things have fallen. But then I also start thinking in the back of my head, Geelong have had such a weak run home in the way of the teams they've had to face. They've been dished up teams like North Melbourne, Port Adelaide, Sydney, Richmond, Essendon, whereas Brisbane have had to go around it the hard route and they've still managed to get the job done. So this is interesting here. I came into this video thinking I was going to tip Geelong, but here I am clicking Brisbane, thinking that Brisbane are going to defeat Geelong at the MCG in a close contest. Got to be a very interesting watch. I don't know whether Geelong are going to get on the counter-attack. We're trying to get Jeremy Cameron up to his 100 goals. I don't know whether that's going to get the yips in Jeremy Cameron's head. Does Lachie Neale come back into this team as well? I think maybe I might go Geelong if Lachie Neale doesn't come back in. So this is all tentatively locked in outside of tonight's game. And once full teams drop, I might chop and change, which obviously you'll find out in the round recap whether I did or not. But I think for now, I'm happy to lock in Brisbane for the upset win over Geelong at the MCG. We then shift to GWS hosting Hawthorn at NG Stadium. Again, round 3 was the last time these two teams faced off, and it was down in Tasmania, which saw Hawthorn pick up a 12-point win over GWS. Down in Tassie, it's a different ball game. They just play differently down in Tasmania, Hawthorn, and I feel since that point in time, GWS have been the bigger movers. They've had bigger moments. They haven't really captured me all by surprise, the Hawks, as much as they did in the first half of the year, whereas GWS went through a bit of a shaky period, but coming to this final series with one of the better runs home. I definitely feel GWS win here. Hawthorn get eliminated the first week. GWS move on to a semi-final, which will take us to our second elimination final, rounding out the weekend, which is Fremantle hosting the Gold Coast over at Optus Stadium. These two faced off last in round 12 at People's First, which saw Fremantle defeat Gold Coast 75-64, 11 points. Very hard thing to do, going to People's First Stadium and knocking Gold Coast off, because the Gold Coast to People's First, again, very similar to Hawthorn playing in Tasmania. They're just in their element. They play a different brand. They look like a different beast. If Fremantle can knock off the Gold Coast in the Gold Coast, they're definitely knocking off the Gold Coast in Fremantle. Now, here's an interesting stat. Optus Stadium is a sellout, so there's going to be close enough to 60,000 fans in that place. That is the biggest crowd the Gold Coast, in their 15 years, have ever played in front of. And that's got to be daunting enough in its own right. Right? I think so. Maybe just a little bit. So, I'm backing Collingwood to win tonight against Adelaide. We're going with Brisbane tomorrow night to defeat Geelong. And then on Saturday, we are running with the Giants and Fremantle, winning their games respectively, which means my semi-finals are set up to look like Adelaide taking on GWS in Adelaide and Geelong to host Fremantle. Maybe a GMHBA, but most likely going to be at the MCG. That is it for this video. Quick, simple, easy. Thank you for dealing with me. My voice is a little bit croaky. I'm still a little bit unwell, but nothing's going to keep me down. It's footy time. We've got to get the content out. If you did enjoy, hit that like button down below. Be sure to subscribe if you want to get on board the community we are building. I'm just keen for another round of football, and I hope you guys are equally as keen to see this one go down. But that's it from me, guys. I'm out of here. If your teams did make finals, good luck to your teams this weekend. And as always, I will catch you guys next time.